Welcome to this meeting of the Standing Committee on Social Development. Participants are abiding by social distancing guidelines and are participating remotely. Members of the public were invited to contact the committee clerk if they wish to appear before committee. I will now ask all committee members to introduce themselves for the record.
Ron Bonadrouche, MLA Decho.
Lisa Semler, MLA Nuvik Twin Lakes.
Kevin O'Reilly, Frame Lake.
And we also have with us MLA Knockleby of Great Slave. And with us today, we also have staff, our committee advisor, Aaron Shea, our committee clerk, Jerry Burla, and our law clerk, Toby Kruger. This afternoon, the Standing Committee on Social Development is reviewing Bill 13, an act to amend the Interpretation Act, which allows for the elimination of biannual time changes. It removes references to Mountain Standard Time and to Daylight Savings Time within the Act, and replaces them with a reference to Standard Time. The bill itself is available on the Legislative Assembly's website. The amendment would not eliminate the biannual time change and would allow the Northwest Territories to be in a position to do so quickly when and if that decision is made. I will now invite the Honourable R.J. Simpson, Minister of Justice, to open the proceedings on Bill 13. Following the Minister's remarks, committee members may make comments or pose questions on the bill. Minister Simpson, please start by introducing your staff for the record and proceed with any opening remarks that you have on the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm joined today by Mr. Brad Patzer, Assistant Deputy Minister, Attorney General, and Mr. Mike Reddy, Director of Legislative Division. I'm here today to present Bill 13, an act to amend the Interpretation Act. Bill 13 will amend the Interpretation Act to allow for the elimination of seasonal time changes in favor of a permanent year-round time standard. Specifically, the bill establishes a permanent time standard and prescribes that the Commissioner and Executive Council set this out in regulations that will replace the current daylight saving time regulations. The proposed amendment will be brought into force by order of the Commissioner at a future date. This means that after the bill receives assent, biannual time changes will continue to be observed until an order is made to make the change to a permanent time standard. This change was prompted by previously voiced public support, research findings that permanent time is healthier and safer, as well as a growing trend in which Canada and international jurisdictions are eliminating seasonal time changes in favor of a permanent time standard. The amendment will position the NWT to be able to move expeditiously to a permanent time standard as this issue continues to evolve across Canadian jurisdictions. This concludes my opening remarks, and I would be pleased to answer any questions that members may have regarding Bill 13. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Simpson. Members, are there any comments or questions in regards to the Minister's opening remarks? Seeing none, I believe we've now concluded this stage of our review. Mr. Clerk, are there any requests from the public to appear before committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There were no submissions from the public for this hearing.
Thank you very much. Seeing as there are no further general comments or witness presentation, does the committee agree to proceed to a clause-by-clause review of Bill 13, an act to amend the Interpretation Act? Agreed. Thank you. The committee agrees to conduct a clause-by-clause review of Bill 13. Let's turn to page 1 of the bill. Clause 1, committee, agreed?
Agree.
Thank you. Clause 2, committee, agreed?
Agree.
Thank you. Clause 3, committee, agreed?
Agree.
Thank you. Clause 4, agreed?
Agree.
And clause 5. MLA Knockleby.
I'd like to move the motion that Clause 5 of Bill 13 be deleted and the following substituted. Coming into force, Section 5, bracket 1, this act comes into force on a day to be fixed by the order of the Commissioner. And the opportunity for public engagement. Subsection 2, before this act comes into force, the Minister shall ensure that there is an opportunity for public engagement with residents of the Northwest Territories regarding the elimination of the time change and the setting of standard time. Thank you.
Thank you, MLA Knockleby. The motion is in order. To the motion?
Question.
MLA O'Reilly.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, the way the bill had been drafted, I wasn't prepared to support it. And I spoke at second reading in the House because I thought that it basically gave Cabinet complete and absolute authority to change from daylight savings time to standard time without talking to MLAs, without talking to the public and so on. So I wasn't prepared to give Cabinet that kind of a blank check. So, while I appreciate what the minister has said about some jurisdictions moving to daylight savings time, our closest neighbor, Alberta, has not done that. This bill, as it had been drafted, would have allowed Cabinet to make a unilateral decision to move to standard time, even if Alberta hadn't chosen to do that itself. So, there was the Standing Committee on Social Development in the last Assembly was asked to look into this issue, and as a result of a petition that had been brought forward, and their advice in the report, which doesn't seem to have been recognized by the department in its work on this bill, recommended that that we really try to do things in sync with Alberta. That's not what this bill had been drafted to show in any way. So all of that to say that I do support this motion because I do feel that Cabinet should not have the authority to make this kind of unilateral change on its own. This will now require some public consultation and engagement around that question, so people will have an opportunity to weigh in before a change is made. So I do support the motion that's being brought forward by committee. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, MLA O'Reilly, and thank you for the motion, MLA Knockleby. Members, does anybody else wish to speak to the motion? Does the minister concur with this amendment?
I do.
Thank you, Minister. The Minister concurs with the amendment, and thank you, Minister. Committee to Clause 5 as amended. Does committee agree? Agreed?
Agreed.
Does committee agree that Bill 13, an act to amend the Interpretation Act, is now ready for consideration as amended in Committee of the Whole? Thank you, MLA Semler. I move that Bill 13... MLA Semler, I'm reading your part. MLA Semler, do you move that Bill 13, an act to amend the Interpretation Act, be reported to the Assembly as ready for consideration in Committee of the Whole?
Yes.
MLA Semler. Motion is in order. Motion is on the floor to the motion.
Question?
Thank you very much, MLA Bonnet Rouge. Question has been called. All those in favor? Thank you, members. All those opposed? Thank you. Motion is carried. Bill 13, an act to amend the Interpretation Act, will be reported to the Assembly as ready for consideration in Committee of the Whole. Thank you, Minister, and thank you to your department for your time today. Thank you to everybody who came out, and I would like to have somebody adjourn our meeting here today, please. Thank you, MLA Bonnet Rouge. Thank you, Minister.
Thanks, everyone.